for the function given, we are going to graph it and along the way figure out all of the answers for these questions. So first thing we have to remember is the formula for cosine, and the way it's given to us, y equals -2 cosine 3x minus pi plus 5. The -2 here, right, that's going to be the amplitude. The 3x minus pi actually isn't in the correct form, so we're going to have to factor this 3 out. And then d, you can use any variable for this, is going to be that plus 5, and that'll be the vertical shift. So y -2 cosine. Now we factor that 3 out to get k, right? And that's going to be x, and then minus pi, but because we factor the 3 out, we have to go pi over 3, so that when it multiplies back in, it would be 3 pi over 3, and that would be correct. And that's going to be the phase shift, and the plus 5 will be the vertical. Okay, so where do we start and end the period? So typically cosine starts at 0, but we're adding the pi over 3. So it's going to be pi over 3 to the right. So the first key point that we have is going to be pi over 3, comma, and then we look at the a, which is -2, and so it's going to be -2. And so remember that the graph typically starts for cosine up here, goes down and over, but because this is negative, we're going to start down here at the -2, go up, and then come down. Okay, and so that also is going to give us what we need to figure out what the period is. So the period for cosine is 2 pi over absolute value of k, and so the k here is 3, so that's 2 pi over 3. And so if we have the initial key point, which is pi over 3, and that's pi over 3 -2, then pi over 3 plus 2 pi over 3 is going to be 3 pi over 3, or just pi. And so the pi over 3 comma -2 is going to be pi -2 for the next key point. And with cosine, we have another key point right in the middle, which is going to be pi over 3 plus pi over 3, and that's going to be 2 pi over 3, and that's going to be the max, and the max in this case would be 2. So let's go ahead and start filling out what we have so far, and let's see, the max value is going to be 2, and that is when x equals 2 pi over 3, and the minimum value is -2, and since it's negative cosine, we're going to have two minimums when x equals pi over 3 and when x equals pi. And up here, we can already say when we're supposed to start the period, and so start is going to be pi over 3, and end is going to be at pi. The phase shift is pi over 3, and that's to the right. The vertical shift, we know that's going to be plus 5, so 5 up. The amplitude, right, was the absolute value of -2, so that's 2. And the period is 2 pi over 3. Okay, so we can figure out the zeros here at 1/4 p and 3/4 p. And so that's going to be 2 pi over 12 and 6 pi over 12. So now we can look at the phase shift, and that's going to be pi over 3. So all we have to do is add pi over 3 to 2 pi over 12. So that's pi over 6 plus 2 pi over 6. So that equals 3 pi over 6. And 2 pi over 6 plus 6 pi over 12. That's plus, well, I guess we can just add that. So 4 pi over 12. And that's going to be 10 pi over 12. And of course, we can simplify that to pi over 2 and 5 pi over 6. The maximum value, those are going to stay the same until we get to the vertical shift. So vertical shift, we're going to go up 5. So the zeros, all we're being asked to do here is to follow the zeros. So that's pi over 2, comma 5, and 5 pi over 6, comma 5. Okay, and the max value, that the x does not change. So when x equals 2 pi over 3, and when x equals pi over 3, and x equals pi, but we are adding 5 to the original numbers. So 2 plus 5 is going to be 1 max of 7, and negative 2 plus 5 is going to be 1 max of 3. Okay, so we pretty much have everything we need to go ahead and graph this. Okay, so for the graph, we know that the top is going to have to be 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the key points have to do with pi over 6's. So I'm just going to use that as the scale. So 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6 pi over 6. And so our first key point is going to be at pi over 3 here. So pi over 3, 3. And then the other minimum is going to be at the end of the period, which is pi here, 3. And then right in the middle, we have our max up here. And so that max is 2 pi over 3, comma 7. The mins, make sure to label those, is pi over 3, 3, and pi 3. And it's a curve. And there we go.